X Factor Youth. I'm part of the X Factor Youth. Put me on stage, you can find me in the book. Put me on a track like I'm stuck inside a booth. I'm that nigga, young nigga with the truth. Black body with a Jewish mindset flow. Black man with a lot of grind, I know. Inside I go, my mind's on though. I hide my mode, me blind my bro. Never ever did they realize my bro. Grown man making niggas cry, my bro. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, your excellencies, the name is Bliss Sibia, aka Mr. X Factor Youth, because we do it for the youth them. So today is our very first episode, and I decided to invite an interesting character that we engaged 2 years ago. And what really drew me to him more was what he does for a particular organization that we're going to speak about, but also the type of person that he is. He's very interesting. His story is crazy. But the person that he has become today, he probably doesn't even know this. He knows this today, obviously, but he's what I regard as one of my mentors, considering that he's done 1,000 mistakes for people like me to just do probably 50 or 60 or different mistakes. So I hold this guy in very high regard. He's like an older brother to me. And the ironic thing is that we haven't spoken in years. And it was only this year that we've spoken even more. I feel like we can't get enough of each other. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, my king, my older brother, Mr. Redmond Louw. How are you, my brother?
Dude, I'm very well. What an intro. What an intro.
I try.
I'm happy to be here with you. Like you said, man, 2 years in the making.
Exactly. It's been crazy, man. It's been crazy. But I wanted to expose you to the audience, the X Factor Youth audience, considering that you have a pretty mad history, if I could put it that way. But the person that you've made yourself to be, through obviously the role models that you've had in your life, considering your upbringing, I just wanted to know from you now. I mean, I can talk about you for days, but I think for you, how would you describe yourself in sentences or words?
Man, it's not a tricky one, but there's so much to say, and to try and encapsulate it in one line or one saying would be my mission statement for myself as a man. I'm true to the man in the mirror. I'm a leader to my family. And I'm in a position where I provide men, women, and children that are lost with hope. That's the short and sweet for it. And in terms of my personality, man, I'm outgoing, call a spade, and sometimes that gets me in a bit of a difficult position. I love being a father, man. I love being a father. It's one of the greatest responsibilities that I get in this day and age.
And do you think other people perceive you in that way as well, based on your own personal description?
That's a difficult one, because a lot of the time we are stuck with some thoughts that we keep captive in our minds, right? And sometimes we allow what other people's opinions and what we think they believe about us speak louder than who we actually are, right? I've told you, there's many moments in my life where I've been in a position where just because I'm outspoken, I'm witty, I'm kind, I'm friendly, all of these things that make for a good personality gets translated into arrogant, cocky. You know what it is?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, some people identify themselves based on like their personal achievements. What would your personal achievements be?
Another cheesy cliche. I'm a husband and I'm a father.
Nice.
Outside of that, no real academic achievements. But one big thing for me that stands out of the last 2 years is that I was able to cut ties with the corporate world and actually pursue what I'm passionate about. Men, women, and children, providing them with hope. And working for an NGO, doing what I love, working with men, working with young boys that are the future of this nation. That's why we get along.
Oh yeah, for sure. But now, did you think that you would be in this position given your history?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My history dictates that I would be in a cell, in a grave, and somewhere as a deadbeat. Absolutely not. I had no clue at all that I'll end up here.
So why do you say that? What is your upbringing like, if I may ask?
Upbringing was pretty tough. Not from the sense that my mom, who was a single mother who raised me, my brother, and my sister, selflessly, gave up everything for us. She worked multiple jobs. A lot of things she did. She taught us to cook at a young age, to clean at a young age. A lot of people, you didn't have a childhood. And I'm like, no, I learned about responsibility, which has helped me be set apart for the big world as an adult, you know? Outside of that, the biggest part that defined the upbringing was lack of a father figure or no positive male role model in my life. My mother was a hairdresser, grew up with a lot of ladies, and yeah, it was difficult for me. I craved affirmation, validation. I wanted to be told I'm special. And my mother did that. But it wasn't from a masculine perspective. It's what we need.
Yeah. I mean, it's those things that we take for granted, you know, not having that father. And I feel like, I mean, for me, when you say things like that, like affirmation and stuff, like, I can be stubborn and be like, I don't need no affirmation from another nigga, you know, another man. But then in retrospect, it's like, yo, actually, it would be nice if another gent were to be like, bro, you're doing well, because you never know where you are in life. And I think from a father figure especially, one who should get to understand you, it sucks. It really does suck, you know.
In this day and age, it's a bit more common now, because we're starting to become more aware of the gap with regards to men's mental health and wellness.
Yeah.
And there are more places, spaces, podcasts, whatever they are, where men understand that breaking those norms of cowboys don't cry, that we need to be vulnerable, that we can shed a tear. It's providing, I think, a great ripple effect for the future, but it wasn't always that way, yeah? And that validation thing is important. Like, I say that as someone that lacked a father figure or positive male role model, but you can be a child, a lady, an uncle, an auntie, whoever you are. Validation is something that never switches off. You want to get told I love you. You want to get told you're special. You want to get told you look good today. You want to get someone to wish you well on your birthday. And as you get older, I'm 38 now, I'm still very young, but old compared to a lot of other people. And every year it's the same thing, right? I don't celebrate my birthday. I don't want a cake. And I say that, but I still love and appreciate when my wife and kids celebrate me. It's not a priority for me, but there's something in me that desires the hug, you know?
Facts. Yeah, I don't care how gangster you are. There's still that thing that you want. You know, you can be tough all you want, but like, it's always nice to have that side sorted out. Because I mean, constantly, we're always going out. It's war, man, like every single day for a gent, especially in the South African context, and a person of color.
Tell me about it.
There's just that layer. And I think going back home, you want a little bit of that, you know, where you can say it's enough now, rather than thinking, oh man, I wish I could get a hug, you know, but I'm not gonna go ask for a hug and all that stuff. But you did mention that your biggest achievement is being a husband and a father. Please, like, tell us more about that. Why would you consider it an achievement, and why do you think it's one of those that's like a cliche, if you could put it that way?
Yeah, we're starting something, yeah. The world looks towards titles. Certificates, accolades, all these wonderful things that you can parade, right? And for instance, if you go for an interview, if you go to any place where you are trying to move up the ladder, corporate, you're applying for something new or fresh, you've got to parade who you are, what you've done. And that's always the criteria, the cutting off of whether you are deemed relevant, whether you are deemed adequate for this position, whatever it is. But a lot of the time, none of that relates to character. And the reason I can celebrate being someone that's a husband and a father is because my character's taken a beating. My character's had to evolve, adapt, break multiple mindsets, multiple generational curses. And that is something that can't be taught in any varsity, any college, through any degree. Character is something that you have to be open to learning. And that doesn't come from institutions, that comes from mentors, that comes from dying to self, from giving in, you know? Saying, I don't have the answers. I need to look to the people on my right and my left, mentors, female mentors, male mentors. I've got mentors that are younger than me. I've got mentors that help me financially. I've got mentors that help me spiritually. I've got mentors that help me with regards to my marriage. Some people might call them accountability partners. Maybe mentor is not the right word because of the level of vulnerability, but accountability partners, whatever they are. They've taught me about character, and that's why those achievements to me speak volume outside of anything I could ever get to parade to the world. I parade them.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because I was going to ask, what is your definition of a mentor?
think that would be the difference between, if you look at people in this world, you get elders and then you get old people. People that retain wisdom and knowledge. You want to sit at their feet. You want to sit at their feet. You want to take it in. You know, when we go to Rise, when you go to Chisanyamas with the family and you're chilling, it's always the uncles. It's always my little man, them in the corner. It's always the old people that you want to go sit in. They got the craziest stories. They speak a lot of smack, but a lot of the time when they speak about your upbringing, they want to give you something. They want to tell you a bit of wisdom. They want to tell you about a relationship, whatever. There's sometimes the cultural norms. There's sometimes the Christian or biblical values, but they've always got a good story to tell based on experience. You know, I think that's it for me. You know, having someone that you can draw inspiration from and not feel compelled to live up this cookie cutter life, to say I need to be, act and believe in a certain way to be right. They'll accept me for who I am. I can share, I can be open, I can be vulnerable. And what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's important for me. Because you get a lot of people that want to help, and they aren't of the right mindset, they aren't of the right character. And for me, having that position of where someone keeps what I say dear to heart, it's made me grown so much, especially with my kids.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. And what is your selection process when identifying a mentor?
It would have to be the season that I'm navigating in life, right? Because I got a lot of good guys that do a lot of good things. And ideally, I can't go speak to someone that's good in finances, but his marriage is taking a beating, you know? So the selection would be, I've got to find out if that guy identifies with my values, my belief system, my faith as a believer. Firstly, we've got to be in the same position there. Otherwise, if we're unequally yoked in that aspect, I might get some good advice, but with the wrong context, if that makes sense. And outside of that, I've got to be like the kids, with my kids. They'll judge you by what they see, not what you say, right? So if you are saying one thing to me and you're living a life that doesn't model what you say, then you're not the type of person that needs to be in a position to teach or give me what I need. So, a man of valor, a man of integrity, a man of honesty.
Nice. No, that's beautiful, man. The reason I asked that is because, like, in, you know, the townships and even the place where you grew up, you find that other people define mentorship differently, but also who they are mentored by. And that's probably given the environment that they're in, that they're not exposed to different versions of mentorship or different uncles, for example. So I just wanted to know, from your background, what made your story extraordinary? And I just want to hear it from you before I probably give a little extra. But what is your story when it comes to what shaped you and made you become who you are today?
I think that's having a very, very troubled past. You know, from the age of 15, from the age of 14 actually, being exposed to liquor, cigarettes, eventually drugs, dropping out of school in grade 10, and doing the wrong things, you know, theft, drugs, getting high on your own supply, and tasting from what the world wanted from a young age up until the age of between 28 and 30, where I had tried all the remedies. I've tried speaking to people. I've tried prayer. I've tried all these wonderful things. And I think I reached the moment where I could no longer take it. I reached the moment where I was just beat up, and I felt that I was letting my kid down at the time that I decided to make the change. He was around 6 or 7. And at this point, the liquor had been curbed, the drugs had been curbed, but I was still the yes man. Like, Dad, why must I do and act this way? Because I said so. Yes, because I said so. You know what I mean? And I was the guy that would come home every day, have 2 quarts, put my feet up on the couch, have the remote, and that was it. There was no father in the household. There's no father in the household. And the mission statement that I mentioned to you in the beginning, be true to the man in the mirror, be a leader to my family, and provide men, women, and children that are lost with hope. That was birthed through a conversation that I had with some guys online about being the fathers that our kids need, not the fathers that our kids want. And that made me think about my story. In that moment, well, being in a position of drinking every single day and not doing the things I needed to do to be the model for him growing up and the partner for my wife at the time prior to getting married. Something hit home, and the liquor wasn't doing what it needed to do anymore. Drugs weren't doing what they needed to do anymore, you know? And it started with an invitation. The biggest thing that I can give thanks to me changing and being where I am now is my faith. You know, I speak about that openly and truly, sipping and tasting from the world and could never be satiated. And one faithful Sunday, after 2 years of being invited by my woman to and from church, I actually said yes. I'll go to your church and I'll go find out a bit more about this God you speak of, you know? And I just woke up one Sunday, I'm like, you know what, I'm going. I just felt that it was this right moment. And I want to say unction, I want to say feeling, but it was surely and truly the Holy Spirit that met with me that morning. And there was something in my step. I decided to say yes, ended up going to church, and in that moment, recommitted my life to the Lord and never looked back. And ever since then, I've just had a fire for, you know, the space that we're in, the space that we operate in. Together, and for a lot of great plans that we've got for the future, man.
You know, I see the way you move, man. And for me, I mean, I've found like another role model in terms of like a father figure. You know, I've seen how you engage with your kids. I've always been curious though, do you feel like you wish, like what you do with your kids, do you wish that you had that with your father?
Absolutely. Absolutely, but it's not in detriment to say, God, you took my father, because God is all-knowing. You know, God is all-loving, and God will give us the desire of our hearts if we pray for it. And my father wasn't in my life for a reason, and I understand that it's not mine to grapple with. I've had those wounds patched and healed through being able to mentor other boys. I filled those spaces in my heart where I didn't get affirmed, I didn't get validated, but I got to validate 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old boys. Boys that went to matric, an opportunity that I didn't have. Boys that were struggling with porn addiction, that were struggling with lust, having sex at young ages. I was able to validate these boys and mentor them and walk them through all these things that I didn't have. And God works all things for the good, man. So I wasn't affirmed, I wasn't protected, I wasn't given all these things according to what my flesh says. But when finding these boys and walking the journey with them, God said, I'm going to put you in a position through your brokenness, because broken identifies with broken. So through your brokenness, you can fix these boys and you can heal yourself, you know? I'm all stitched up.
Yeah, now you good, man. Now you good. And we're going to get to the Character Company, which is the organization that you're part of. I attended your camp a couple of weeks ago, and I was given this child. Very timid, very quiet. And I mean, I've discussed this with you prior, that, you know, I saw myself in this child, and that brokenness was recognized. And since then, to this day, we still check up on each other. I check up on him, make sure he's good at school. And it was like, I never thought, to be honest, that I would be in a position where I get to mentor or get to be giving advice to a 13-year-old. You know, the oldest sibling that I have is 19. And it's like, but why, you know? And then it made sense. You know, I feel like from my side, I'm also operating from a place of lack. And therefore, I tend to overdo in that aspect in terms of mentoring and making sure that he's okay. Because I wish I was okay at that age.
Yeah.
I was broken too, you know? And being exposed to what the Character Company does, because it's one thing hearing about it in theory, but when you are you inside and you see how other mentors mentor, how they engage with kids that aren't really theirs because their fathers are not in the picture, it's like, yo, I wish I was in this position when I was younger, but again, there's a reason why I wasn't in that position, so I can be in a position now to mentor other people. So I think now is the perfect time to segue into what the Character Company does. So what is the Character Company in your opinion?
It's a place that teaches young boys that are struggling with their view of identity, a place that teaches young boys how to dream, you know? In short, it's a long-term mentorship program to boys without father figures. But through the affirmation and through the love of men getting involved in their lives as social fathers, they are able to open up their eyes again, to start to think, act, and behave differently. in a place where they've been blessed and loved by mommy, gogo, their sisters, their aunties, wherever they are. We know that a young man can only be affirmed through a man. You know, they've done wonderful, they've done remarkable jobs, but the organization that we serve puts men, places them, trains them, and equips them to go and be social fathers in communities where there's a lack of necessity, there's a lack of father figures, there's a whole bunch of lack, but there's a big need of men. And the reason these communities sit in this recurring pattern is because of generational curses, because I think we were speaking about a few weeks ago, saying the fathers went to the mines, right? The fathers went to the mines. But right now, the mines are no longer relevant, but the fathers are still leaving. The fathers are going to the city. The fathers are wearing suits and ties. There are some people that are blue-collar workers that are coming home every single day, driving nice cars, wearing suits, but the relationship between father and son is void. There's nothing there. People are pursuing and hiding behind so much. When I say lack of positive male role models, there are some men that are fighting battles that they were never meant to face through generational curses. And they've not developed or seek the tools. They don't have the tool in the toolbox that they need right now to overcome the issue or the challenge. I fell victim to that for a long time. I loved my kid and I showed him affection to an extent. I was never hard on him or cold from an emotional perspective, but there was a lot that I needed when it comes to understanding his emotions, the way he operates, And in this organization, we get to kind of rewrite some of those wrongs. We get to patch up those wounds that I spoke about for these young boys, anywhere from 5, and there's no exit clause, We start them from 5 years old, and they walk with us until they are man.
What was that moment when you were probably at a TCC camp, we were mentoring a child, where you're like, this is actually where I'm supposed to be?
3 years ago, 2021, at a camp around September, we did a forgiveness exercise where we just walked through some of the kingdom principles with young boys about why forgiveness is important, about forgiveness and reconciliation starts with you, your heart, your mind. It's never about the other person, it's about you. And I am teaching this. And as I started teaching these young boys, I remember having a group of juniors, 9 to 12-year-olds, and I started teaching to them, and something just said, you're hypocrite. Here you are, you selling this lie, this facade of what you're trying to teach, but here you are carrying all this unforgiveness on yourself to so many people that you smile with, that you joke around with, but meanwhile you hate them. You don't want to be around them, you know what I mean? And the exercise after the teaching was that we would give each kid a piece of paper. He would then write the things that he's not forgiven himself about, the things that he's holding unforgiveness in his heart to. Could be the fact that his father left, could be the fact that he thinks and believes his mother is not giving him enough. There's a whole bunch of things related to that. And as I'm telling these kids what to do and what to write and giving them examples and ideas, almost every example and idea that I give them is relevant to me. Because here I am breaking the generational curse, getting saved again a few years prior to that, but still holding on this unforgiveness in my heart, harboring onto this. And I'd not let go of so much. And it was a moment of me going to the camp, realizing that I was sent here for a reason. Not just for these boys that need mentorship, not just in the organization to recruit, equip, and train mentors, but also for myself. Every single day I live and I learn through this organization. I've learned to be a better father. I've learned to be a better husband. All by being open and vulnerable to teaching the boy child. But it was never about the boy child. I am a boy at heart, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing about these camps. Like, I would encourage any grown man to just be in the space, and you get to see that as much as you are mentoring someone else, you are also learning. And it's like the things that you are teaching, because you have a responsibility. I mean, you have to teach these things, but you ask yourself, are you practicing what you're preaching?
Yeah.
And you go back home and you're like, yo, man, if I told this 13-year-old to do this, I need to live up to that as well. So in these camps are not just for the kids that you're mentoring, but it's definitely, for me personally, those camps are also for me to learn and me to reflect on my own life, me to reflect on the people that I need to forgive in my life. And it's a scary process. I've seen some people attend one camp and they're like, yo, actually, there's a lot of, you know, things that I need to work on, and they just disappear. Because it is scary. I mean, essentially you have to face those things that you've been trying to sweep under the rug, you know, and as men, we constantly do that. And facing a 13-year-old or 14-year-old is like, yo, it's like a mirror. Actually, let's put the mirror aside, you know? So are those like the challenges that you face at the charity company in terms of finding mentors? And do you think that is the reason, or is there also like another layer to it?
Yeah, I believe there are quite a few things that affect the process of finding men. When we say fat guys, right? Faithful, available, and teachable. The difficulty around that is as soon as we expose these guys to these boys, then they go into a position where it's not like a thing of I can't teach. It's not hypocritical because, yeah, I am living and acting in a certain way when I shouldn't be. They go there and they realize that, oh, I've not forgiven my father. I'm still holding on to the fact that there's all these things that he did and said and promised, and I can't teach this young boy because I'm still not whole. I'm still not healed from that wound, you know? The other situation is guys come in and they are spiritually, physically, emotionally strong, but what happens when they come in there and they see a boy dealing with the same thing that they identified with through growing up, being hurt, molested, whatever it is, that kind of does something to their wiring, and then boom, they're back at square one. Other guys show up and they've got this desire for wanting to do community development, community work. And when they realize the level of intimacy we have in our spaces between social father and boy, which is essentially a father, they realize like, I want to do this, but I'm still not loving those that are entrusted to me, my flock, you know, my Jerusalem, you know, my people. I'm worried about everyone else, but what about them? So there's a few different things that kind of put up stopping blocks between these guys becoming social fathers. And the biggest part about it is it's difficult. We don't want to walk a journey with anyone that wants to step up into a young boy's life where his identity is, I'm fatherless. No, you're not. You're perfect. You're made in the image of a loving, caring, benevolent God, and you have everything you'll ever need. You just got to seek him, you know? The only image they see is, if God loves me, why did he take my father away? You know, it's a difficult thing to comprehend and to teach.
I can imagine. I really can imagine. Now, I'm curious now, bro. How were you able, because you're eloquent with the word, you know, you're like a poet, you know? I just wanted to figure out like who or what, besides the gift that God laid upon you, you know, you have the gift of speaking. You're a powerful speaker. But how did you hone that skill for you to be able to go into spaces when you're going in for funding perhaps, or, you know, doing something like this? Where do you think you got that extra, you know, push into, you know, the public speaking realm, and what contributed to that in life?
It wasn't always this way, hey? I used to be really nervous. You know, you get that dry cotton mouth from time to time.
Oof,
in front of big audiences, hey? You've got 100, 200 people, you're like, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't always this way. I think once again, when I started developing my faith, when I started developing my faith, and I found my way back to being a born again believer, I started serving in a lot of spaces that were about community development, where it was like, are you worried about the way you sound, the way you act, the way you look, or are you worried about feeding hungry tummies? Are you worried about providing them with restoration? Are you worried about where they'll get the next meal? Are you worried about, what are you worried about exactly? And as soon as I started saying the way I look, feel, and act is not really important right now because the work needs to get done. God's appointed someone, so it's time to like shut up and step up, you know?
Gotcha.
Outside of that, you know, there's the cliche answer. I watch a lot of videos, but not stupid, cheesy stuff. I know you can get sucked into Netflix, whatever. But I also find myself now and then doing that. Why? Because I'm not perfect. But a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of TED Talks, a lot of sermons, a lot of videos that I follow from people that speak about breaking those barriers of public speaking, about how to navigate a room and actually hone in on one or two people instead of being apprehensive when you look at so many people. Like just focus, pick a target, just do your thing, you know? Wasn't always this way, and I think time and repetition, my man. A few weeks ago, I went into engagement where I thought I can't do this. But once again, same mindset that I had to have 4 or 5 years ago when I started doing this openly on a public scale was, am I worried about my emotions or am I worried about the work? And the work always takes greater priority, because is it my salvation? Is it my journey, or is it possibly now hundreds, future thousands, hundreds of thousands? You know, there's work to be done.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, because you say that, and it's beautiful, because like even in business, sometimes we think that we get into business for ourselves, but the Lord's like, actually, it's not really about you. It's not. You just the vessel, but don't be thinking you're selling cupcakes because you like cupcakes. You know, other people like a particular type of cupcake, and it's a harsh, you know, it's like a slap in the face, bro. You know, but as you say, like there's work to be done. There's things that you just have to do. So even if you nervous, you anxious, you gotta suck it up and keep doing what you gotta do. You know, but how? This is probably us getting into the code switching thing. So you eloquent, you speak the king's language now, but that wasn't always your accent that you had. No. There was a point where you had to switch up to accommodate a particular crowd.
Yeah.
Do you think that code switching, or adapting, as other people will call it, has contributed to, you know, increasing your economic value, if I could put it that way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like there's a lot of terms we look at today. We want to be culturally relevant. We want to be emotionally relevant. We want to be all these things. But being in a position where you can speak eloquently and navigate a room will open doors for you far beyond your wonderful, sometimes very limited imagination. You know, one of the people I look up to and I love looking at his talks, his engagements, his Instagram is Vusi Tembekwayo. Yeah. Wow, what a remarkable public speaker. We actually had a chat earlier regarding the way we used to speak growing up. Imagine trying to navigate a meeting with the way we grew up, with our lingo and our slang. It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah, and code switching, unfortunately, is something that not a lot of people know about or understand, or maybe it's just me. I think we spoke about it a bit earlier, but you need to be in a position where you are able to educate yourself and understand how to read the room, how to talk your way into situations, how to talk your way out of situations. And sometimes sounding a certain manner, unfortunately, is not even going to get you an interview.
Facts.
Being articulate in a certain accent, or sounding like you're from a certain tribe or culture, sometimes will close a door for you.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I mean, you're spot on with that, because like I come from KZN.
Yeah.
And I used to be bashed at, bro, for speaking the way that I speak. They'd be like, oh no, you're a coconut.
Yeah.
Cousins wouldn't even want to sit with me. They'd be like, hey, Nako, he has Bliss with his English. Meanwhile, you're kind of preparing yourself for the future. I mean, now I was able to, you know, go overseas, and you realize that if you want to limit yourself, then don't code switch. You know, try stay with your hard-headedness and, you know, be local. But with what you said with Vusi Tembekwayo been telling himself that, yo, I'm international. You know, I'm an international brand. I'm not going to try accommodate people from Tembisa or people from KwaMashu and KZN.
They're not my audience.
They're not my audience. And it's either they get on the bandwagon to understand what I'm really doing, or just understand that there's other people that I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
And because of that, I mean, look at him now, he's balling. But that whole code switching thing, the reason why I ask is because some people feel bad for being able to speak the king's language, for being able to go into spaces that other people would find intimidating. And I'm like, no, like you said, there's a reason why you are here. There's a reason why you accumulated all those skills, the social etiquette, because you are being built for something bigger. So don't try force yourself into like a small box when you were designed to not have a box at all. Yeah. So I really want to commend you on the fact that, like, given your background, you know what I mean, you're colored, you know, there's no way of dodging that, but you did not stick to the stigma or the brand behind being a colored. You go into spaces, bro, I've seen you, like you kill it. And I don't know, maybe the Lord is just telling me to give you that recognition for that, but would you tell your kids to intentionally code switch without obviously compromising their cultural and social background?
Yeah, there's not a lot of deep-rooted culture with regards to my kids. Yes, their mom's Mozambican, South African, but we're South African at heart. We don't have any funny languages or things we believe in, do and say in, but my kid is trying to be someone that fits in, and he speaks and acts a certain way. And I'm sure that's not the way he speaks to his teachers and in the classroom. So I think he's already emotionally developed a sense of understanding that I can be, act and behave a certain way here, be, act and behave a certain way there. Because like if he goes to the area I grew up in, like South Hills, one of the areas I grew up in, where my mom's from, he all of a sudden starts speaking like a colored from there. And I'm like, dude, don't even try. These kids will eat you alive. These kids will eat you alive. And I just want to go back to what you said, right? About the fact that we always go back to where it's familiar. We go back to home. And we always have the people that say, you've changed. You've changed. Listen to the way you speak, the way you act. But change is a wonderful thing. That's the reason I am where I am, because I've changed. Yet you remain the same. There's so many of them that didn't want to conform. They say conform. No, it's actually just adapting. It's wanting to be better. Like, what does my mind say? Is my mind and my limited self-belief going to keep me here? Like unemployed? It's people I go see now, they're like, you've changed. Now you act and speak a certain way. You don't see us anymore. You don't look at us. You don't want to hang out with us. I'm sorry. I'm not that person, you know?
Yeah.
And those people that continue to bring up those things will unfortunately stay there.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing. It's a hard take because some of them are people that's close to you.
Yeah.
I've got some good friends that's, haven't grown a day.
Was it not Jay-Z who said in the song They Don't Love You No More with Meek Mill, DJ Khaled, he said something along the lines of, what happens is people think you've changed. Meanwhile, they have changed because of your success. I mean, you're doing all of this for a reason. Like you're going into space, you're getting rejected 10,000 times when you're putting out a proposal or pitching.
Yeah.
You didn't do that to stay the same. You
Absolutely.
did that to change. You did that for a reason. So what happens is people think that you've changed. Meanwhile, nah. It's either you have stayed the same or you don't mess with the fact that I've changed for a good reason. Because that's how we break in generational curses.
That's it.
We need to change, you know? So yeah, man, it really, it's hard, you know, losing friends over them assuming that you've changed. But I mean, we just have to keep moving, man. We have to keep moving. And thanks to your rise or your escalation, I mean, you've traveled, you've been to Europe. Which place was the dopest place, do you think, in Europe that you stayed at? And why?
Well, it was my heyday, right? I went as a youngster. I'm talking between 18 and 21. It's a little island off the coast of England called Guernsey. Guernsey, Guernsey.
Yeah.
You catch a little chartered flight, like 45 minutes, and you arrive on this island. But yeah, once again, in the heyday, it was a lot of fun, but it was just an idolatrous nature, you know, drugs, alcohol. I remember that for the fun because I have a friend that I grew up with in the area I was from in South Hills, where my mom still stays. And we were homies up until grade 7, and then he moved to Europe. And when I went there, we linked up again, and we just had the time of our lives. And we actually went there for one of our birthdays. It was an amazing place. But apart from that, Europe is beautiful. But I think being home is where the heart is, you know.
Facts.
We've got a lot of wonderful things here. And you've spent a lot of time there yourself. Man, some of them are like dead to the soul.
Oh, yeah.
No smiles, no emotions. We've got a wonderful
Cold, man.
nation that loves, that smiles, that's warm.
Exactly.
Not warm because of the weather, but warm because of the culture,
Yeah.
because of the food, all these wonderful things.
That's true.
And if only we could work together, right? 11 different people groups, 11 different cultures, but we are so far removed from each other at times. And that's another issue that ties back into boys growing up without father figures. Man, imagine we could cut all the nonsense and rally together and start teaching boys that the color of their skin, their background, none of these things dictate whether you be successful, whether you can be a good man. You just have to become a good man by having someone that shows you what a good man is, despite how he looks.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Now, on the topic of boys, now this is probably going to be controversial, but it's something that we have to put out there. You know, these days, there's a lot of support for women and girl children. What is your take on that aspect, especially in the industry that you're in? And what pushback do you get, whether it's trying to get funding, whether it's trying to get a meeting with so-and-so? What issues are you finding because of the fact that there's most funding goes to women? I mean, it's a fact, women and children.
Yeah, women and, programs that cater or deal with gender-based violence or domestic abuse. But in my walk over the last 2 years, I want to say I've been really blessed because the meetings that I've engaged in, the meetings that I have spent time with people that want to know and find out more. They might not have funded us, they might not have walked a journey with us, but they've entertained a meeting, is because they've seen and identified the fact that South Africa is where it is due to a fact that there's a lack of male role models. So they've actually been of the firm opinion and agreement that yes, we've had the take a girl child to work day. We've had all these wonderful things, but what about the boy child, And that's what they reach out to organizations like the Character Company that are in a position where we focus or cater on the boy child. A lot of the time I go into communities and we speak to them and they're like, okay, well, what about the girl? Do you guys do a soup kitchen? Do you guys provide clothing? I'm like, nope, mentorship to boys without father figures. That's it. So I've kind of been blessed or protected from that I've never fall victim into the fact that it is a controversial take. But man, I guess that every time I go out, there's a level of protection provided for the fact that the people that are doing the work for the girl child will get what they need, and the people that are doing the work for the boy child will get what they need. So I've never been in a position where I faced conflict of that sort because it becomes difficult, Then it becomes tit for tat.
Yeah.
Women, men, equality. I don't want to fall into something like that,
No. What is your desire or prayer for young boys?
That's a very easy one. It might sound basic, but for every boy to have access to a positive male role model, and that's just not a social father, but that's someone that picks up the mantle, a brother, an uncle, a nephew, a grandfather, but then there's also the level of maturity that they get through a positive male role model. Some of them have male role models in their life that are childlike, that don't possess the qualities to be a role model, yet we have child-headed households, yet we have boys needing to help out because their mothers aren't adequately equipped. They need to help their brothers, So it's to have someone of a sound mind for every boy in our nation, to have access to a positive male role model that's of sound mind, that can teach them the difference between man and woman, that could teach them basic stuff around racism, gender-based violence, suicide, corruption, like a few things that hold us back, a few things that run deeply into our nation with regards to our crime, repeat offenders, regardless of the community you go to. There's a lot of impoverishment. And it's always those four examples: racism, corruption, all of these things, those ones that I mentioned, just over and over and over again. There's no new tricks. It's the same thing. And the only way it can change is once we get more men rising. And that's hopefully the next generation of boys that we see are the boys that will go and forge new legacies, become fathers that have kids that have values. Those kids have values, and they just continue doing what's important, what's good.
Oh man. Now let's talk about your business now. The Vanguard of Men.
Oh yeah.
Bro, talk to us, bro.
I mean, the Vanguard of Men was developed a year and a half ago. And the Vanguard of Men is a mindset. The actual term Vanguard is the front-facing infantry, like in an army, the first guys that walk hand in hand into the battle. Those are the guys that usually get blown apart. But that's the mindset I'm trying to create. Not the guys getting blown apart, the guys actually willing to rally together, regardless of their creed, their background, whatever it is, and saying, we're going to step into a community, we're going to be bombarded, and we're going to bring about change. It's very different to the Character Company. What do I mean by the Vanguard of Men? It's a community of men that are coming together, speaking about the physical, emotional, spiritual well-being, There's, like I said, we are in a position now where there's a light shining a bit more brighter on men's mental health, but it's still not as bright as it should be. And the way this organization works is just providing a space, a platform for men to come as they are, to speak openly and freely regarding all the things they face. There's this cheesy saying that every man is an island, meaning every man can face his own battle on his own. His battle of loneliness is his own. He cries on his own. He deals with his issues on his own, and it's rubbish. It's something that needs to change. Men need to understand that they need to speak about their issues, like lust, covetousness, whatever. Being a financial provider, that's a difficult thing. We've spoken about that many a time. Guys think the term man is just someone that provides financially. Yes, a man provides providence, but not just through finances, And it's teaching these guys. A lot of these guys, some of the guys are very, very successful, traveling, living great lives, but they aren't emotionally articulating the way they feel. I speak with guys all the time, and this is a tricky one. Guys that are 37, 42, 45. I've been in a position where I've not been intimate with my wife for a year, and we stay in the same house, we sleep in the same bed, because they've not developed the nature of understanding how to talk, how to deal, how to offload. You have to be vulnerable with your wife to a level that she can understand you fighting the battle, not to a level that you are so vulnerable that you tell her, I don't know what we're going to do, we don't have any money, and then you cry while she cries. She doesn't want that. She doesn't want that. She doesn't need that. But you need to be vulnerable enough to let her know that there is a battle that's going on, but you've got it. You've got it. You are dealing with it. And, divorce rates are sky high. We also live in a society where sex has no weight or no value. Lust, all these things are running rampant in relationship. People believe that they can have sex with multiple partners and do all these things without inheriting or falling victim to soul ties. And these are things that need to change, Covenant and marriage, this is a very special thing, People need to understand how to navigate relationships. People need to understand how to overcome, how to forgive themselves. People need to understand how to overcome addictions of all sorts. I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, but I've got a hell of a lot of life experience in drugs and alcohol. I've overcome it, despite wanting to go to rehab, this or that. The only thing that helped me is identifying the fact that it is a problem and I have to deal with it. My life's changing, my life's evolving, and I need to be in a position where I can now kind of learn and develop new tools to deal with those things. And the vanguard exists to, what's the right analogy? Think of someone climbing out of a hole. You need to throw a rope in or a ladder to help them get out. A lot of the guys are pushing ladders away. A lot of the guys are not understanding that there is a ladder or there is a rope or what is it for. And this is the education around that. And this happens through weekly calls, and we're in the process of getting the website and a few things up, and we're going to be doing some awesome camps with men.
Oh, yes.
We're going to do a lot of good teaching around that, a lot of good exercises to help men deal with these things in a respectful, honest manner that is not weak, that is not feeble, that is actually strong and pure.
Man, when you told me about your company, the Vanguard of Men, and you explained what a vanguard is, I immediately thought of, the World War II, when the Battle of Normandy, on the beachfront. There were those ones that as soon as the boats landed, people were getting shot at. And what I thought about at that time was, they're fighting the war. They left families, man. They left a family because they believed that if they are in the offense, their families are safe. And what you are doing, bro, you are, in this case, there's no World War II, but there's people, every time they leave the house, they are the vanguards, because they need to be the ones that get rejected. They need to be the ones that, could fall victim to being in an accident and victim to crime, because, we are in South Africa, because they are protecting the household. They are protecting home. So the fact that you have a business that caters to the man, it does so much in the workplace. It does so much after hours when we don't want to be in the workplace anymore. So I really pray that it expands. It continues to grow. You get soldiers, man. You get soldiers, you build soldiers.
I receive it.
To make the world a better place, because you're doing well, bro. You really are.
I think the right explanation in that, firstly, thank you. Thank you, man. I receive it. I need it. It's hard work. Definitely not easy work, because a lot of guys are struggling. And a lot of guys want to voice their concerns. They just don't know how, and they don't know where. Hence, they end up leading towards suicide. Suicide is a leading cause for death amongst 25 to 35-year-olds. And I've got some mates that work with SADC, And a lot of the time they end up getting these calls late at night, and they can quickly diagnose who really wants to kill themselves and who just needs to talk. The guy's like, I don't want to kill myself. Well, what's the issue? Like, no, I lost my job and I can't provide and I don't know what I'm going to do. And it's like, okay, so you lost your job and you need money. Yes. Okay, so you don't want to kill yourself. You just need money, right? You know what I mean? I know. I had an issue with my wife. I drank a bit too much and I actually domestically abused her. I'm going to kill myself. I don't know what I'm ever going to do. No, you made a mistake and now you don't know what to do. You don't want to kill yourself, but you've just made a mistake, you know? And I think with regards to the vanguard, I think the right term that I'd like to use is, we always say we are willing to die. Like, I'm willing to die for my family. But we should change that. We should be willing to live for them. How? Mental, physical, spiritual well-being. Because right now we are dying, but a death through emotion. Not speaking, not dealing, not facing the battle. We should live for them. Take care of every facet of our life. There's a whole bunch of things we should be doing to live for them instead of die for them. Living for them gives them purpose, teaches them to dream, makes them feel loved.
Yeah. Now, you're a very staunch Christian, and I am too. I'm going in on my spiritual journey. Can you just tell us, what is your favorite scripture?
It's one that God laid on my heart many, many years ago. It's from the Psalms. Children are an offspring from the Lord, a blessing, a heritage from Him, you know? And it made me think that I have the ability to speak life into these seeds, into these kids that I've been given, or I can just fall victim to what it is that I fell victim to in my life, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. And ever since being in a position to find this verse and understand what God was saying, that I've got a wonderful blessing, a heritage from the Lord. He's entrusted me with His flock. He's given me these kids to raise, equip them, and one day give back to the Father, you know? So yeah, that's one of them. That's one of the favorite verses that I have. And it ties in because all of this was put in place before I started working with kids.
Yeah. And then lastly, if there was a question that you'd like me to ask the next guest, what question would you like me to ask them?
What do you believe and why?
Bars. Mr. Louw, thank you so much for actually wanting to be part of this discussion. Thank you for educating me continuously, because it never ends here and it didn't start here. May you continue to be a blessing not only in my life, but in the people that you touch, the people that you speak to. Keep doing what you are doing. And I really pray that you have all the resources that you need, because you are going to take over, bro. I mean, men need you. The soldiers out here, we crying for Vanguard, bro. And you are definitely, one of those people that I hold in high regard, as I've mentioned. And we should continue to hold each other accountable. So I really hope and pray that you continue and leave this legacy, not only for yourself, but for lots of communities in the country, and most importantly, for your family.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for the space. And I can say the exact same thing about X Factored Youth, man. You are dealing with the next generation of kingdom minds with regards to business mindset. I've seen the work you do. I love the work you do. And I know that there's so much favor and promise on your life. So it's been an absolute pleasure to be in with you. And yeah, man, yes to the future.
Thank you so much, man. Let's come to that. So Aristotle says, you are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence should be a habit, not an act. May we continue to pursue excellence in everything that we do as young people. X Factored Youth is an abbreviation for excellence, exceptionality, extraordinariness, exceeding expectations, going the extra mile, and expanding your influence. May you continue to be X-Factored. Thank you. Grinding so hard, must spend time my fortune. Family being happy, live see and fatted. Shubaga cool, must spend time my pocket. Pony cherry, I kiss it easy and Sunday.